Good morning, everyone. Can I add my own very warm welcome to you if you're visiting us this morning. Great to have you here with us. You join us as we are going through the big Bible story throughout this year, and we've reached the end of a chapter on how God judges, and in particular we are looking at how God judges false leadership this morning. So as part of my preparations for today, I thought I would put the word leadership into my Amazon search box. As a matter of interest, how many books do you think there are with the word leadership in the title? Any guesses? 20,000, that's not a bad guess. It's higher than that. It's 181,000 titles. Can you believe that? So the world is full of experts on leadership. And I thought I would begin with one or two quotes about leadership, which you, I hope, will enjoy as much as me. This is from that incredible leadership movie, The Bug's Life. The first rule of leadership: everything is your fault. I'm a leader, not a follower. Unless it's a dark place, then you are going first. Or, this is my favourite: being a leader is like being a lady. If you have to tell people you are, you aren't. If you were interested, that was Margaret Thatcher. Friends, that is where I want to begin our journey this morning as we continue to explore the theme of how God judges. Just to remind you, we've reached that point in our journey in the big Bible story where God's people have gone astray. They've lost their way. And to compound matters, the leaders that God has appointed over them are proving to be false leaders in three different ways I want to look at in a few minutes. But before I do that, I also want to add a couple of caveats. And the first caveat is this: you may have switched off already. You may be thinking, I am not a natural leader. Well, can I say to you that if you are not a leader, I would be very surprised. We all have opportunities to lead at one stage or another, whether it's in our workplace, whether it's in our volunteering. If you are a parent, you are a leader. If you are a grandparent, you are a leader. If you are a godparent, you are a leader, because the children will look to you for a lead. And they will follow your example. So each one of us has opportunities to lead. So I hope there will be lessons of leadership for each and every one of us this morning. The second thing to say is that leadership is tough. It's always your fault. It's always your fault. And the Bible uses this picture of the shepherd and the sheep to explore the theme of leadership very appropriately. You see, being a shepherd is not a straightforward thing. We have a mental picture of this rather Swedish-looking Jesus, don't we? With this fluffy, white, compliant sheep slung over his shoulders. But the reality is very, very different. My brother-in-law, Rachel's brother, has a small holding in France, and they have a few sheep. I have to say, looking after them is a messy and smelly job. And if you've ever tried to round one up, you'll know how uncompliant they are. Leadership, friends, if you hadn't realised, is a tough and messy business. Now, it's right that we should have high expectations of our leaders. But can I also say that what we will explore with this passage, with the two passages, is how we also bear a responsibility to be mindful of how we support those who are in leadership over us. Now, none of that is to detract from the responsibility that leaders have to lead well. And that's especially true for those who are called to lead God's people. But in our passage, we see leadership that is not leading well at every tier. Whether it be the kings or their officials, their prophets or the priests, they are letting the side down and they come under judgment. Three areas that Ezekiel notices. Firstly, the leaders looked after their own interests. Woe to you, shepherds of Israel, who only take care of yourselves. You eat the curds, you clothe yourselves with the wool, and you slaughter the choicest animals. Woe to you. Now, can I say that there is nothing wrong or inappropriate with a shepherd eating the curds from his sheep, or even using the wool for clothing? The shepherd needs to live, and it's appropriate for the flock to care for the shepherd in the same way as the shepherd cares for the flock. That's part of the support that I touched on a minute ago. But the picture that Ezekiel gives us is of a shepherd who takes all the advantages, all the perks of leadership, but gives nothing back. And he says, woe to you leaders that are preoccupied with self-interest. But it doesn't stop there. Not only are they self-centered, but they don't care. You do not care for the flock, Ezekiel says. In your news sheet, you will notice there's a really lovely note from Martha Wetherall. Some of us had the great privilege of going to Chichester Cathedral last Saturday to celebrate Martha's deaconing in the Church of England. It was a really fabulous occasion. At a personal level, I love the opportunity to go back to those services of ordination. It takes me right the way back to those 7 years ago when my own deaconing was being done. And it reminds me that actually every single leader is called first and foremost to be a deacon. And that means to be a servant. Whether you're a parish priest, whether you're an archdeacon, whether you're a bishop, whether you are an archbishop, each and every one of us is a deacon. And as the people of God, if we are loved by God, if we've given our lives to God, then each and every one of us is called to that same servant ministry. Listen to what the bishop says in that service. Deacons are to work with their fellow members in searching out the poor and the weak, the sick and the lonely, and those who are oppressed and powerless. That is what we are doing with things like Linking Lives and our pastoral ministry. It's reaching out to our community. As Anglicans, we have a parish system, and that means that we care not only for the 300 odd people that regard St. John's as their spiritual home, but we also have a responsibility for the 3,000 people that make up our Meads parish. Now, that's a lot of people for one shepherd to look after. And I'm not abdicating responsibility, let me hasten to say that. But as the bishop reminded Martha, and as the bishop reminded me 7 years ago, it is a collaborative task. We are to work with our fellow members in searching out the poor and the weak. Friends, we all have a responsibility and a share in this mission of God to which he's called us. So the shepherds of Israel have failed. They've been self-centered. They have lacked care. And thirdly, they have lacked vision. They had allowed the flock to be scattered. This is what Proverbs says. Where there is no vision, the people perish. They cast off restraint. They go wandering off like a sheep without a shepherd. Unless you have a vision, friends, you don't know where you're going. And the people that were leading the people of God were not sharing that vision. And a key to faithful leadership is to keep the vision at the forefront of our lives. And in the absence of leaders who would lead sacrificially with care and with vision, God, through Ezekiel, gives the people a fresh vision. A vision that will sustain them through a long period of exile that is to come, where their own leaders will be removed. It's a vision of how God himself will assume personal responsibility for the flock. A vision of how God would gather his scattered people from every corner of the earth. A rescue plan that would be far greater than the exodus from Egypt. It would bring people from far corners together under one good shepherd. And God says he will shepherd his sheep. And fast forward to the reading that Sheila brought to us from John's Gospel, and we hear these words from Jesus. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. Jesus is the fulfillment of this vision that God gives to Ezekiel. Jesus is the good shepherd who will rescue not only Israel, but the people of all nations, of all colours, of all ethnicities. Listen to what he says. I have other sheep that are not of this sheepfold. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. Friends, Jesus offers a radical vision. It's a vision of extravagant and audacious hospitality. And in that vision, all are welcome. All are invited to the banquet. It doesn't matter where you've been. It doesn't matter who you are. God invites you to come in. He says, come. Taste and see that the Lord is good. He is our good shepherd, and he cares for us, and he loves us. And just as earthly leadership is about collaboration, so too God calls us to be those who collaborate with his mission. That's what this series has been all about through this year, how God calls you and I to be participants in the mission of God. Is that exciting? I'm excited about it. I hope you are. We are called together. Whether we see ourselves as leaders or not, we all bear a responsibility to share in that mission. To remind you of those words of William Temple, which I've reminded us before, the church is the only institution that exists for the benefit of those who are not its members. Friends, this church is not a luxury liner. Now, I know some of you enjoy cruising. Where's Keith and Rowena? I think they've gone around the world probably at least half a dozen times. Praise God. But they know, and I know most of you know, I hope all of you know, that this church is not a cruise liner. This church is a working vessel. It's a fishing boat, and it's all hands to the deck. We all get to play our part. Isn't that exciting? Yes. Great. We all get to play our part. It's a functional place where we serve the mission of God. And that's what lies at the heart of our local vision to reach out to our parish and our community. That desire to offer radical and audacious hospitality that underpins our vision to reorder this space. That means if you have a sight or hearing disability or impairment, we want to improve our audiovisual technology as our response to express that radical and audacious welcome. If you have a physical disability, we want to ensure that wherever and however possible, we make sure that no part of this building is inaccessible as part of our audacious and extravagant welcome that God offers to each and every one of us. Is that going to be costly? It is going to be costly. There will be a financial cost which we'll be putting first and foremost to the PCC and later to the whole church. As a PCC, we feel we bear a responsibility to demonstrate leadership in giving generously and sacrificially to the vision that God has given. But we need to recognise too that it may be costly emotionally. It will mean a change to our physical space, a space that many cherish as it is. And can I say that the PCC share with me a deep concern for those who will be affected by that. But let me also say this in love and with great care and compassion. It is not our familiarity with the pen that should form the basis of our security as followers of Jesus. Let me say that again. It is not our familiarity with the pen that should form the basis of our security as followers of Jesus. Our security lies not in the building, but in knowing and trusting the shepherd who lays down his life for his sheep. Jesus is the gate. He is the one by whom we get access to the Father. And Jesus, the Good Shepherd, it is his intention that the sheep will go in and come out, go in and come out, go in and come out, joining with him in the task of seeking and saving the lost sheep. Now that means we have a choice. Always good to have choices, I feel. And we have a choice. We can remain secure in our silos, secure but separate. Or we can use this place of security where we experience the love and the grace of God to embrace the vision to reach out with radical, audacious hospitality to those that God is calling. But whatever happens, I hope that we will all give out of the abundance that God has shown to us in his Son, Jesus. Listen to Jesus' words. I have come that you might have life and have it in abundance. Friends, the leadership that Jesus shows is abundant and extravagant. And I pray that the leadership that we exercise in our homes, in our neighbourhoods, here at St. John's, would be leadership that expresses abundance, which sets people buzzing with expectation and excitement about all that God is doing in and through us, the people of God here in St. John Meads. An abundance that doesn't dwell on what we don't have, but rejoices in all that God has given to us. Maybe I can close with a little story for you. At a nursing home, a resident group was discussing their ailments. "My arms are so weak I can hardly lift this cup of coffee," said one. "Yes, I know. My cataracts are so bad I can hardly see my coffee," said another. "I can't hardly turn my head because of the arthritis in my neck," said a third, at which several of them nodded weakly. "My blood pressure pills make me very dizzy," went on another. "I guess that's the price you pay for getting old, Winston, old man." There was general agreement, and then a short moment of silence ensued. "Well," said one woman cheerfully, "it's not that bad. Thank God we can still drive." Friends, thank God. Thank God for his blessings to us. Thank God for Jesus. Thank God that this is his church. He is the leader of St. John's. Thank God for the privilege of serving and the opportunity to be a blessing to the world. And thank God for the leadership that he's given us. And may we, each of us, exercise it well and for his glory. Amen.